Hey, Forge fans, it's the Forge Audio Network. I'm Anthony Urciuoli. It's the match day preview. Forge FC on the road in Edmonton Tuesday night to take on FC Edmonton at Clark Stadium. Game time is set for 9 o'clock Eastern time. And the theme of this week, at least the week leading up to this match, has been, Forge is coming off. First of all, their last league match, that I know we've forgotten about that one because it does seem like it was a long time ago. It wasn't, though. It was 2 matches ago. Forge winning 4-0 at Halifax. One of the most impressive wins of the season for any team. Going into one of the toughest places to play, collecting all 3 points in a dominating fashion the way Forge did. It was an impressive victory, and they were feeling good. For whatever reason, they went into Montreal for the quarterfinal of the Canadian Championship and played their worst half of football in Forge's 3.5-year history. That's according to head coach and technical director Bobby Smirniotis. So, not one to mince words. He called it like he saw it. Forge did not play well, to put it mildly. And that carried over into training this past week in preparation for Edmonton. Practices were they were heated, they were intense. Guys care. I mean, if you're ever a fan sitting back thinking, do these guys even care? I can tell you firsthand, with these eyes, the players care, because there was an intensity this week that I'm not sure. I haven't been around the team as every day, but as far as what I've seen, that it's a club that really want to right their wrongs. It's a club that cares. The leadership has stepped up. Becker, Tristan Henry, guys care. And we should see that in Edmonton. I mean, this could be called a trap game, banana peel game, whatever you want to call it. Edmonton at the bottom of the league table makes them dangerous because they've done it this year. They don't have a win this year in league play, but they have been able to get points when you didn't think they had a shot. Late goals, being heavy underdogs, they have been able to create a lot of headaches for a lot of clubs this season, and they'll be looking to do the same against Forge. And so Forge is going to want to be careful. The other thing that could make this a trap or a banana peel game, they play Toronto FC on Saturday. And that is a match they cannot, as much as a coach, as a player, you want to be focused. You want the club to be focused on the next match at hand. That's Edmonton. You don't want them looking ahead to Toronto. But how do you not, even just for a split second every now and then, with the attention that's around that match, I can tell you the media presence at Tim Hortons Field has been something that I haven't seen, just in terms of the different media outlets that have never covered Forge before are now getting interviews around the players, asking them about Toronto FC. They're not asking them about Edmonton. They're asking about Toronto. So as a player, it's a challenge to remain focused at on the next match. So we're going to hear from Forge defender Malik Owolabi-Bellewu, and we're going to hear from head coach Bobby Smirniotis in seconds. So to set the scene here, we have a club in Forge that the results haven't necessarily gone their way this year. It's been inconsistent, but the reality is they've played the least amount of matches of any team in the Canadian Premier League. They've played 6. By comparison, Pacific has played 9. Forge sitting at 8 points, and with the win, they will go back into a tie for that top 4, 4th spot specifically. So they can get back into a playoff spot. A little over a week ago, we were talking about how from 2nd place to 7th, every club was stuck on 8. It's like nothing I've ever seen before. Every club had 8 points from 2 to 7. So the league table's been tight all year, and clubs have these opportunities to kind of separate themselves from the pack, and they're not taking it because there's a lot of parity this year. Forge is going to want to be careful of that. They also have the league's best goal differential, does Forge. So they're at +5. But and having only played 6 matches, they've scored 11 goals. I mean, they're averaging almost 2 goals a match. Edmonton's giving up almost 2 goals a match. So Edmonton should be ripe for the picking as long as Forge shows up and plays their game. The game that they want to play every match, or they wanted to play in Montreal. For whatever reason, that didn't materialize. And now Forge has that opportunity against FC Edmonton. Here is what Bobby Smirniotis had to say about Forge remaining focused on Edmonton and not looking too far ahead of their home match against Toronto FC.
Yeah, I think we had a tough performance, not indicative of who we are in the last game out in the cup. But you move on the same way when you win games. You just move on because you're only as good as your next one. So they know this is the next most important game on the schedule. We're going to a place that's being proven to be difficult for opponents this year. Edmonton's done a good job at home, taking a few ties there and making it difficult for a lot of the opponents. And we just need to stay sharp on that. And I think that's what we've seen this week in training. This is what we call the banana peel game sometimes. When you look at the opponent you're playing, they're at the bottom of the table. But then you look at the results of Edmonton, and they've all been very close, especially at home. Whether it's been a tie in the last moments, whether they've given up a lead, or whether it's been a very close game for them. So we know going there is not an easy place to play. It's not the best of the fields in quality of the turf. So concentration needs to be at its highest. Sometimes for the players, it's easy to get ready to play a game against Toronto FC or a final or a CONCACAF game. But these ones are the ones that need the highest level of concentration. I think that's something we've been talking about every day. We reiterate to the players to make sure that they're on their best on all aspects of the game. So I think it's just reiterating it in the change room within training, and just being very specific on the points where we need to be very good and where we need to be careful.
Yeah, and how important is your leadership group during a week like this, where you have Toronto FC and you're trying to stay focused on Edmonton, and not just Becker, but Tristan Henry's a guy that it looks to be influential within the club. How important is it to have guys like that in your lineup?
Yeah, I think it's one thing they've learned to do. You have a few guys, or quite a few guys in here who have been here since 2019, and with us playing a lot of big games on the schedule and having league games in between, I think it's something that they've been accustomed to and they've learned to deal with. So having guys who have experienced that over this last 3.5 seasons, I think it's important. It gives that that guided influence to some of the new players and younger guys, and that's what makes them not only good players on the field, but makes them leaders off the field.
Now, some challenges Edmonton presents: a very disciplined defensive team. They are going to sit back. They are going to park the bus. They're going to have a lower block. They are going to frustrate their opponent and take advantage of those counter opportunities. And they can do that because there is some quality on this team. Forge fans will know. I mean, there's, center back Cale Lockery, for example, who is Forge property, who's out on loan with Edmonton. He's been solid this season, the big 6'3" defender. It's a good sign for Forge, for sure, especially a club that's looking to kind of build their depth on their defensive line due to some injuries this year. And something Forge is going to have to be aware of on that counter is the big striker, Tobias Urciuoli. He has 2 goals this year, which may not sound all that impressive, but remember, Edmonton is not a team that spends a lot of time attacking. They're not a team that has a lot of possession. For a guy like Urciuoli, he makes the most of his opportunities, even if it's just one. And, I mean, he's ended up on the highlight reel this season with those 2 goals. So he's going to be a problem for Forge if they're not at least aware of him. And that's kind of what I talked to Malik Owolabi Belawu about. It's just remaining focused, not just on Edmonton. There's a discipline there and staying focused on the next match. But I also later bring up the fact that it can be tough to defend against a team that sits back, because sometimes your mental sharpness isn't quite there. So anyways, here is what Malik had to say.
Yeah, I'd say it can be very challenging because we're a team that likes to possess the ball. At times when we're playing against a team like Edmonton that will predominantly stay in a low block and look to defend and make it hard for us to play around them, we can get into a situation where we, at the back, we're not having to do too much. So we have to stay focused and stay concentrated at all times, because the smallest things can make a difference in a game. That one time when you're not paying attention can make the difference. So it is a bit harder, but yeah, we just have to stay 100% switched on. And as long as we do that, then things can go the right way.
Yeah, and can you just maybe talk about the club's focus on Edmonton with obviously a big match against Toronto FC coming up, and the club not wanting to, play in a trap game where they overlook Edmonton. So just maybe talk about how the club's been able to stay focused going into this match tomorrow.
Well, as you know, one of our focuses is winning the league. So every game is important, and this game against Edmonton is another one of those important games. It's a must win. We need those 3 points to push ourselves up in the table. So everyone's focused in that aspect because, as I said, we need the win. As you said, we do have Toronto FC coming up, so that's a game that we also have to think about. But in the back of our minds, our first focus is just getting those 3 points, and everyone's motivated for it. Everyone's ready for it, and yeah, we're just ready to go to Edmonton and get the job done.
Yeah, and just can you maybe just talk about playing in front of Tristan Henry? It's he's a goalkeeper who's clearly one of the leaders on the team. He's very vocal. He's very involved in the match. You've played with a lot of different keepers. Maybe just talk about the experience with Henry and what maybe he brings that a lot of keepers don't between in the goal there.
Playing with Tristan Henry he's a very good keeper to play in front of. Me and him get along well off the pitch as well. So we have that kind of chemistry that helps on the pitch. On the pitch, like we're both big characters that will tell each other what we need to say, and we don't really have any problems communicating. But again, like you said, he's a great keeper. He makes my life a lot easier by giving me that information. And again, like with someone like him that's not afraid to say what he needs to say, I know that whatever he says is to better me and to help the squad, and vice versa. So yeah, it's great playing with him behind me.
All right, the stage is set. Forge looking for all 3 points on the road in Edmonton. Tuesday night, Clark Stadium, 9:00 Eastern time. You can watch the match on One Soccer and keep it locked onto the Forge Audio Network. We'll have post-game reaction, and then we will have more as we go into that match against Toronto. But first things first, Edmonton's coming up, and we will talk to you after the match.